Today on Community Watch, I'm talking with Melanie Largin, believe it or not. She is the Dean of the School of Business and Professional Studies at Georgia Highlands. Fascinating conversation. We're talking about business, we're talking about new 8-week programs and all kinds of things. So you really want to see this show with Melanie Largin, and Community Watch starts right now. Welcome to Community Watch. I'm John Hershey, and my guest today, I am thrilled to say, is Melanie Largin, who is the Dean of the School of Business and Professional Studies.
That's right.
I am so glad to finally get you on the show.
Well, I am so very glad to be here.
Well, you're a busy person, so just giving you an opportunity to sit down for a few minutes, I'm sure you are grateful for.
That is very true. That is very true.
I know we have a few things that we specifically need to talk about, but I want to ask you, the business piece of your title, I get, but honestly, professional studies is that's broad.
Yes, that's true.
And I'm guessing it's broad on purpose. And I need to specify that the School of Business and Professional Studies is, we're talking Georgia Highlands College now. I don't want anyone confused about that. It's a big school. Is it the largest?
Well, we are actually the smallest in terms of faculty. So we've got a small amount of faculty, but we do a large amount of work. And so our students, we have the second largest population of students. Okay. So health sciences outstrips us. But
all right, now see, you don't want people to know that you're doing more with less. So forget you heard that.
That's right. That's right. But I am very proud of our faculty.
Oh, I'm sure.
They do a tremendous job.
Yeah. So all right, business, and we can talk about that in a minute. But professional studies covers a lot, right?
It does, and I think what you said earlier really applies. I think it's intentionally broad. So it gives us an opportunity to continually look at what's going on in our communities and look at the workforce needs and design that portion of our curriculum around it. So one aspect of it, of the professional studies, I think in the beginning was connections back to our continuing education group. And those types of things to make sure that we, were feeding information to them and they were feeding information to us about workforce needs. So that's one aspect of it, and that's working really well. I think our continuing ed group is really getting out there and doing a lot of solid training, like in things like leadership, workplace safety. So really good programs are coming out of there. But then they feed back to us and let us know, well, there's a broader need for bigger curriculum pieces. Bigger training pieces that may be needed in the community and in our business and industry. And so we're geared to try to take advantage of that. So that's one of the aspects, I think, too, why we have small number of faculty. I know I'm not supposed to say that again, but it makes us very nimble so that we can make sure that we are bringing in curriculum pieces, bringing in courses, designing things that meet those needs that are out there.
All right, so the business, I know, includes one of the college's more popular associate degree programs, 2 bachelor's programs.
Absolutely, yes.
Now, and we'll talk about those, but continuing ed is one piece of it. Are y'all talking about the certificate area yet, or is that part of the professional studies?
Eventually, yes, yeah. Now, and continuing ed is a separate group right now, so they're underneath another umbrella, so that they can. But we have those connections back into them.
Right.
So the long-term goal is exactly what you said. Can they offer certificates that we might then be able to bring in for credit level? Can we offer our students, when they graduate, they have a degree in, the Bachelor's of Business Administration, Logistics, and Supply Chain, but maybe they also have a certificate in project management. So those pieces are still coming, but you're exactly right. That's where that connection and why that professional studies title is there.
So I do want to mention, before we get too far away from it, the 2 bachelor's programs we have, because I think, well, we have like 8 or 9 now in total. But in your area, we have 2 bachelor's programs because I think a lot of folks, especially folks of a certain age, still think of Georgia Highlands as a associate degree awarding institution, which we are.
Yes.
Many of our students get that core experience and then transfer to complete. But now they don't have to. In a lot of areas, they don't have to. And the 2 bachelor's programs that the School of Business and Professional Studies currently offers, those 2 programs, are really taking off. I mean, they're substantially populated now with students. At least that's the impression I get.
Oh, yes, and we have a direct pipeline into them now because of our associate degree program. So we have around 250 students that are in our bachelor's degree programs.
That's impressive.
Yeah, and it's and it has it's been growing over the years, and in our undergraduate, or not, I guess it's all undergraduate, but in our associates level, that pipeline is around 300 to 500 students, and so we're very excited about that. And sometimes when you look at it, the core of it is a Bachelor's of Business Administration, and then the major courses, there's 7 major courses that are in those 2 disciplines that we offer: logistics and supply chain and healthcare management. And the reason we did that is because of our area. You can go up I-75 and you can see tons of distribution facilities coming in. And of course, we're in a healthcare hub, with Atrium and the other facilities in our area. So we feel like those were good majors. But even if you're not directly maybe tied into those majors, we're still a BBA. And even on the logistics and supply chain side, I like to say, there's not a single business that doesn't have a supply chain. So even if you look at it that way, it applies across the board.
So it is really not. I mean, it is a specialty within business, but it is not a rare needed one. I mean, because all businesses deal with logistics and supply chain.
Absolutely.
And that was a concept, logistics and supply chain, that didn't become clear to many of us outside of business until COVID.
Oh, yes.
The pandemic made everyone aware of logistics and supply chain.
Absolutely, yeah.
And I think we're still kind of dealing with some shortages as a result of that. We haven't really fully caught up yet. So the fact that Georgia Highlands has a bachelor's that focuses on logistics, I mean, it's just perfect fulfillment of area needs. And then the other one is healthcare management, which, as you say, given the hospitals just in Floyd County.
Oh, yes.
But in our larger service area, it is a healthcare, I'm guessing, I don't know if it's the largest industry in our corner of the state, but it's got to be close.
It's got to be close if it's not the largest. You're exactly right. And and Georgia Highlands, of course, has had a long-term tie into the healthcare industry with our nursing program and our dental hygiene program. And so this is just another aspect of that. And everybody's life touches healthcare at some point as well. And so we also, one aspect of that for the college was we had, of course, a very strong nursing program and, like I said, dental hygiene program, but it was limited enrollment. And also when you got into it, there are sometimes when you think you want to be hands-on in the healthcare, but maybe there's another avenue that you can still provide those services and that help, but if maybe you're not really
You're not
keen.
into the bodily
yeah,
fluids.
that kind of thing.
not so much into the bodily fluids, but you want to help.
That's
right?
exactly right.
And this is a great way to do it. And something else I've noticed, and you and I have not had this conversation because typically when I'm advising students, I bother Joy Hambrick.
That's true.
Who is very kind.
Oh yeah, in an excellent chair, by the way.
Excellent chair, and she pretends to be happy that I'm contacting her. So I appreciate that. But in advising students, more and more students who have gotten an associate degree in some other area have decided to get this bachelor's in business, often the healthcare choice, because it seems like such a need. I was going to say here, but really
Anyway, it's like logistics. It touches everybody's lives, and you're right. And we recently redesigned the program so that we could take advantage of that. So that students that have decided, like associates in psychology, which is a very valuable thing too. But if you decide then you want to go into a bachelor's in business, you don't lose all of those credits because you have the associates. You have some specific psychology courses that we'll have to substitute business courses in for, but those psychology courses will now go into our electives. And so we've made a wide range of electives so that students can make that transition, because that's a really powerful combination. Even if you decide you want to be a clinical psychologist and want to go down that path, it's still a business. So you're still going to have to deal with all of those aspects of it in order to really do what you were called to do. So,
and one thing I appreciate is a student in that situation who has an associate, say, in psychology or even another area, they haven't taken any of the base level business classes, which I'd say most of them are still required. But you, and by you I mean Joy, has allowed them to, as they're taking those associate level business classes, they can begin the upper level ones. Some of them, so they get they feel like they're in the program, even though they still have a little catching up to do.
Yeah, exactly. And Joy, again, just went through a whole set of revisions to our curriculum to make sure that all those prereq requirements were where they needed to be, so that students have even an easier time to doing that without having to override anything. So she's been doing an excellent job in that area.
Well, those degrees and what's going on in the School of Business and Professional Studies really exciting. Not what we were supposed to be talking about entirely, but I'm glad we had an opportunity to do that. We've got, I think, a couple of minutes in this first segment. One of the things that we are supposed to be talking about, which is something the college is trying successfully, are shorter sessions. For many years now on the semester system, our sessions have been, with some exceptions, full session classes, which would last 16 weeks. So it's a long semester. And that can be problematic, especially for students who have jobs and families, and it's, staying with something for 16 weeks may seem like forever.
Yes.
So we're doing some things to help out, which we can't begin talking about really right now because we are practically out of time for this segment.
Okay.
But we're going to jump right into that. So we're going to talk about the new 8-week sessions at Georgia Highlands. After this break, you can't go away. You just got to sit there. Don't move. We'll be right back.
You belong at Georgia Highlands College. As a University System of Georgia college, GHC offers high quality and career-focused instruction at a fraction of the cost, with over 40 programs to choose from, including 8 career-targeted bachelor's degrees. With small class sizes and personalized attention, our programs are designed to help you achieve your goals and make a positive impact in your community. So what are you waiting for? You belong at Georgia Highlands College.
Welcome back to Community Watch. I'm having a conversation with Melanie Largin, who is Dean of the School of Business and Professional Studies at Georgia Highlands College. We need to talk about 8-week sessions.
Oh, please. Yes, I'm excited about 8-week
sessions.
So,
I don't know. I remember when these were being discussed, I had a concern that, because when you're talking about moving 16 to 8 weeks, you're talking about, you're not diminishing the content of the course. You're not cutting the course in half.
Correct.
You're doing the whole course.
Yeah.
But you're doing it in a shorter time. So more work crammed into less time.
Yes.
And that concerned me because I thought, our students going to be able to manage having less time to do the same amount of work.
Yeah.
But apparently it hasn't worked out that way.
That's
So,
true.
so tell me about the 8-week experience.
Well, you're right, because logically, when you look at it, that's what we're doing. But I think it's not just taking the 16 weeks and just trying to cram it into the 8 weeks. I think that's you can't do that. You've just described why you can't do that. And so a lot of it has been going back to the teaching and the content and taking a critical look at the way the assignments are done, the way the content is structured, so that it can fit within that 8-week format and not, like you said, you do not want to diminish the content or the knowledge that's required out of that course once the thing is completed. And students, I think one thing that's happened in the scheduling and that students have found is that typically if you've taken 4 classes over 16 weeks, then you're switching focus between all those 4 classes across that entire 16 weeks. What we're suggesting primarily for 8 weeks is cutting it back to 2 classes in the first 8 weeks and 2 classes in the second 8 weeks. And I think that's another thing that has helped in terms of the success rate, because the data is there. Students are more successful in these 8-week classes than they are in a full 16-week session. And I think by cutting it down to just 2 classes in an 8-week period that you now have to focus on, it allows the student to really plan around that, as opposed again to trying to juggle 4 or 5 classes during every month for an entire 16-week period. So,
and now the credit is the same.
yes.
And the time, there are pretty rigid rules about the time devoted to being in the class.
Yes.
Whether it's a traditional in-person class or an online class. So, in converting those courses to an 8-week model, you still have to be observant of those requirements.
Absolutely.
So between the time actually spent in class and then an online piece possibly, the time devoted to the course really doesn't change. But what you're saying is that the way the course is structured, perhaps, or the way it is taught and presented, that is been revisited.
Yes, to make the most out of that particular 8-week period, and you're right. When we've looked at a lot of the structure on that 8-week, on a typical 16-week 3-credit-hour course, you were meeting 3 hours a week, typically in a classroom. When you cut it down to 8 weeks, then that requirement would be 6 hours. So we have some classes that extend that class time, but more like what you said, we've made more of a hybrid model or partially at a distance model. So recognizing, you can't impart knowledge if people are tired of sitting in the seats. But then designing those exercises and things outside of the classroom that maintain that content flow and that discussion among your peers and the interaction with the professor.
Right. So maybe with a full semester 16-week experience, a student gets burned out after the halfway point, and they still have 8 more weeks. Oh, nice. Do I have 8 more weeks of this to go?
Yeah.
Oh my God. An 8-week version maybe doesn't give them a chance to get burned out. I mean, they're focused on it, and then before they know it, it's completed.
I think that's it. I think in that word focus, we've mentioned it a couple of times. I think it just gives you that opportunity to plan your life, focus around these classes, and you can do it in an 8-week time frame, when in a 16-week time frame, life is more likely to interrupt.
Yeah.
Things are more likely to happen. You may have be okay arranging something for 8 weeks at your work, but you can't arrange it for 16 weeks at your work. And so I think, being able to have that focus prevents that burnout. And I know, you and I have both been in the classroom. When you're looking at the 16-week format, especially in the fall semester, we lost people after Thanksgiving.
Right.
You had everybody up until that point usually.
Yeah,
but
they hit Thanksgiving, they think, this is really nice not doing school for a few days.
That's right.
I think I'll just continue not doing school.
Exactly.
Yes, that's not good. They don't come back.
They don't come back.
Yeah.
And then a lot of times that not coming back can tank their whole
yes.
the whole semester.
Yeah.
And so it's that same kind of philosophy in an 8-week setting. Let's just focus, get it done, let's bear down and do it. I just had a student this week had a rough start in this 8-week, and this is another advantage of it. So he had a rough start in this 8-week. He had family things going on. He had lost his job, so he was trying to figure out what to do about that. And so we had to pull him out of the first 8-week, but because we have a second 8-week session, he can still keep going. So we just took him from the first 8-week and we re-registered him from the second 8-week.
So he didn't have to wait a whole semester.
Right. He did not have to wait until January to get started back on the stuff.
Good.
Yeah.
And I believe, our semester, our fall semester started. We're a couple weeks in. I'm not sure how much longer it's possible, but I know it is still possible if a student is doing really well and they feel like they could take on an additional class, they can still sign up for another one.
Absolutely. This month, pretty much the month of September, is an opportunity to do that. There will be some stuff with financial aid. You just need to double check depending on what types of packages they have, or the grants and things that they may have. But most students should be able to start on a second 8-week class if they don't have it on their schedule now. Again, we have to look at financial aid implications. But if you start, if you just start in the second 8 weeks, then it's just like a typical semester start.
And I know you are way too young to remember this, but this experience is reminiscent somewhat of the quarter system. Which I remember very well.
Oh, I do too.
And I know when it wasn't just Georgia Highlands that made the switch. I think it was the whole system.
Yes, the entire system.
The whole university system made the switch from quarters to semesters. I can't remember now why, but that was a dramatic change for a lot of folks. And so what Georgia Highlands is doing now really is giving students an option, because there's still plenty of full session classes. I mean, if there's a course, and I've talked to students that I advise, some of them, and I'll use math as an example, because so many students feel that math is their weakness.
Yeah.
And the idea of doing algebra in 8 weeks is so frightening that many of them would prefer a longer time, a 16-week experience with that. And they have that option. I mean, it's not like everything's going to 8 weeks, but it is now one of the options we have.
Yeah, it's something, and I think you hit on it there. I think if students try it, then they can determine whether this is something that fits with their, study habits and their life things that happen or not. And then, because like you said, we still have some of the 16 weeks options available to them. And like you said, I was in quarters, and I was a math teacher, for a long time before I went over to the School of Business. And one thing that I have found too is that on those subjects where you are fearful, you procrastinate.
Now that's interesting.
Yeah, and so an 8-week session then says, can't procrastinate.
Can't do that. You got to jump on it.
You got to do it.
Yeah.
And I know I found that, in my math education, when I was having a rough time with a subject or something, and like you said earlier, I could see the light, and I could say, okay, I've got sufficient time to turn it around, but I'm not going to be. I know there's something out there. I'm not going to be mired in this forever. I'm going to be ending it in 8 weeks, and I can pick up
So that's a way of looking at it, that maybe students who have a fear of a certain subject should still consider a shorter time period.
Yes, I think so. Because again, it's that focus. It's you're not being distracted by other things. You can just really focus in on it. So.
And what I would tell students, and what I'm telling them right now actually, is you really should register and enroll early.
Yes.
So you can get the time that you need and want before options begin to fill and are closed to you. So
yes, plan ahead.
Plan ahead. Plan ahead. Now we also need to talk about a night program.
Yes.
Now this is brand new.
Yes.
I mean, this is so new. It still has the new car smell.
Yeah, absolutely.
So tell me about it.
Well, this was actually an initiative our new president, Mike Hobbs, looking at how we can serve the needs of the community and those students who have life going on. They've got families, they are working, but they also need to continue their education in order to advance in their current jobs or to find a new career opportunity. And realizing that time is very restrictive, especially if you've got family things happening. You can't maybe get away during the day for 1 or 2, or if you're doing 16 weeks, four classes. And so we have designed this program for those working adults with outside life obligations that can come to Georgia Highlands College right now in Cartersville, but we're looking at expanding that 1 night a week for 2 years. For three semesters a year, and have the credit needed to get their associate's degree in business. So it's that 1 night a week face-to-face class, 8-week sessions, and so we're doing it hybrid, so we do that 1 night a week, and then you have stuff to do outside of class. Yeah. And we couple it with an online class. So like this first session, we're doing business communications and English 1101. So the English 1101, the first English everybody has to take, is online, and the business communications is face-to-face. And so
but it's just 1 night?
Mm-hmm. 1 night. Tuesday nights from 6 to 8:45.
Yeah. So they could plan on that not changing for the whole
exactly
time. That's great.
Yeah, so they could, if they have an employer or a babysitter or family obligations, they can say, well, this is my 1 night a week that I'm going to be tied up.
All right, so for students who are interested in this 1 night a week degree program, or have other questions about your area, what's the best way to reach out?
Probably my email.
Okay.
So that's mlargin at highlands.edu. So just that's the best way to get in touch with me, or business at highlands.edu. And then that
That's easy to remember.
Yeah,
Business at highlands.edu.
Yeah.
And a lot of this information, I'm sure, is available on the website, which is highlands.edu.
Yeah, that's right. And we do have a link specifically to our School of Business.
Yeah.
And that I think that's I'm not sure what that. I think it's business at highlands.edu, but I don't know. Or yeah.
Well, they can find it.
They can find it. It's from the Georgia Highlands site, but you can definitely send an email to me or to the business address.
Maybe in a few months we can talk to somebody who's in that 1 night a week program.
Oh yeah, that would be fantastic, because we already have some really good stories from that program. So I'd
That's
love
great.
to do that.
We're totally out of time.
Okay.
Totally.
Oh no.
But thank you so much.
Thank
and
you.
thank you for being with us this time on Community Watch. We'll see you next week. Bye now.